Do y'all want scientific proof that God is real? It is 7 o'clock in the morning and I have not slept. So, y'all, I'm gonna need y'all to try and keep up with me on this, okay? I'm gonna give you a lot of information and I'm gonna try to keep it as simple as possible, okay? So we're gonna ride together because I can't sleep until I do this video. Have y'all ever heard of the theory of general relativity? I'm sure you have. It's what Einstein is famous for. In his calculations, he started to realize that the universe was not eternal the way that he always believed it was. It wasn't static. It had a beginning, a definite beginning. Now this leads us to the law of causality. Now the law of causality really is the fundamental law of not just science, but life. Everything that came to be with a beginning, every effect needs a cause. So Einstein clearly knew that if the universe had a beginning, it needed a cause. He found that information irritating. He said that himself. He didn't want to believe that the universe needed a cause. He didn't like the implications behind that. Because what could possibly cause the existence of this extremely precise, expansive universe? But at the end of the day, after trying to find a loophole to his own theory, because he didn't like the implications behind it so much, he had to just give up. The evidence backed up the fact that the universe was created. It had a beginning. And he later called that loophole that he attempted the biggest blunder of his life. Now let's go to the Big Bang Theory. Let me make something very clear, because I don't feel like I ever really learned this in school. The universe did not emerge out of any pre-existing material. It emerged from nothing. So all this stuff that I thought about the Big Bang, there was pre-existing matter floating around out there, and then it just happened to collide and bam, Big Bang. There was no space, no time, and no matter before the Big Bang. The universe emerged out of nothingness. What does that mean? Since it's impossible for the universe to be able to create itself because it didn't exist in order to be able to create itself, nature had no part in the creation of the universe. Nature had nothing to do with it. Nature and the universe itself was just a big effect that was caused by, what are we left with? We are left with an extremely powerful, extremely intelligent, precise, given the precision that our universe was created with, personal entity. Because impersonal entities are not capable of decision making, like the clear decisions that were made in order to create our universe and all of us, humans, animals, everything that God has created. The very powerful, intelligent, precise, personal entity that is capable of existing outside of time, space, and matter. Guess who that sounds like? That can't be nothing but God. And for people that are like, okay, well, how do you know that it's like Yahweh? How do you know that it's like Christianity's God? Well, there's only one God, but I'm just gonna give you your answer. There's a very famous astronomer named Robert Jastrow. His credentials as a scientist are impeccable. And he said himself, being agnostic, he's not even a Christian. He said that all of the essential elements of the Big Bang Theory line up with biblical creation. The creation of the universe happened at a definite moment in time, sharply, suddenly, in a flash of light and energy. That is biblical creation. Because this is how God works. God speaks something, and then science runs to catch up with what he said. If God says, let there be light, bam, it just happens. However it needs to happen, that's what's going to happen. People have got it kind of confused. People take science and they put it above God. Like science is somehow more reliable, when science wouldn't exist without God. Because science doesn't create anything. Science studies creation. Scientists try and figure out what caused what. What function does this have? How does all of this work? This vast universe that we live in. How does it all work? Scientists try and figure that out. But scientists don't create nothing. Scientists discover things. But what is discovery? You know what happens if I discover something? You know what that means? That means that something is there that I didn't know was there, and I just saw it. That is what discovery is. When scientists say we just discovered a new planet, we just discovered a new species, they saw something that was already there that they didn't know was there until they just saw it. We just discovered something. But people act like science is God. Let me be very real with y'all for a second. We are just little tiny humans in this very dangerous universe. I don't know why humans be walking around acting like we're invincible or something, but we can only survive under very narrow conditions. Gravitational interaction between the moon and Earth has to be just right. If the sun were any closer to us, we'd be dead. If it were any further away from us, we'd be dead. God has given us those conditions on Earth. Why do you think when people go out into space, they really got to make sure everything's right? That spacecraft got to be right there. There can be no issues. Or else you get Apollo 13. You get astronauts almost dying out there in space because one little thing went wrong and led to a chain reaction that almost ended people's lives out there in the middle of space. God has given us an oasis on this earth, yet we're trying to use science, something that wouldn't exist without him and his creation. We're trying to use science to disprove his existence. Creation never would have been created without God. And while I'm doing this video on this topic already, let me just answer a question that I always get. Who created God? China, if everything needs a cause, then doesn't God need a cause? Remember the law of causality that I just talked about earlier? What'd I say? Do y'all remember what I said about it? Let me refresh your memory. I said everything with a beginning, everything that came to be needs a cause. God didn't come to be. God is eternal, the way a lot of people thought the universe was until science disproved it. God is the cause, the universe is the effect. God is eternal. He is capable of existing outside of space, time, and matter. None of us can even wrap our little brains around that. So God doesn't need a cause or a creator. He is the cause. Let me wrap up by saying this because I've given y'all a lot of information to take in. I really like science. Science is interesting. I love looking into it and seeing all of the fingerprints that God left in his creation for us if we just look for them. I love seeing that. It's really interesting to me. But at the same time, I'm speaking to y'all in the language that you want me to. Like, I always operate from a place of faith. I've had experiences that let me know God is real. And I understand evidence and looking for evidence, because what we should be doing is searching for the truth, because there's only one. The truth is not subjective. There's only one truth in every situation. And that is what we should be looking for. That is what scientists should be looking for. But instead, what do we have? We have a whole bunch of humans with biases that are in the scientific field, unfortunately teaching everybody, not just from evidence, but from their own personal beliefs. Everybody sees scientists as these objective minds. They're the objective ones. And y'all might be looking at me like, China, you biased. Yeah, I'm biased. I love God. Everybody know that. But what makes you think that atheists are not as biased as I am? They got beliefs too. Just like Einstein. What did Einstein do? When evidence started to emerge that the universe was not eternal like he thought it was, but it had a beginning, instead of just being like, wow, okay, the evidence led me here. This is not what I thought, but that. He went through all this stuff trying to disprove his own theory. Why is that? Why not just go wherever the truth takes you? Why we gotta try and rearrange the truth to fit our personal beliefs? No, we should rearrange our beliefs to fit the truth. And on top of that, my bias don't affect the evidence. Either there's evidence to back up my beliefs or there's not. There's nothing I can do about that. Either what I believe is true or it's not. You know how many things I believe that I had to be like, ooh, that wasn't right. Once I came in contact with certain evidence, there were certain mindsets that I had before that I had to get rid of because God was getting on me about it. He's like, you're not looking at this the right way. It's not this, it's this. And you need to change it or else this mindset is going to destroy you. Yes, sir. I believe that this was right before, but now that I know better, I'm going to do better. I want to change according to the truth. I'm just giving y'all information that I learned. But please, don't just take my word for it. Go look into it for yourself. Don't take anybody's word for it. Shoot, that's the problem. That's the problem on this earth for us. We be taking people's word for things without actually looking into it ourselves. If something doesn't line up with the truth, that's something that needs to be discussed. Science is great. Evidence is great, and it's very much needed when it comes to seeking the truth. But let me tell y'all something. Evidence is not a substitute for faith. Following God, choosing to seek Him and build a relationship with Him, most times, it don't have anything to do with evidence for some people. They just don't want to do it, which is, I ain't judging you at all. You ain't never gonna catch me tripping about somebody else's life choices. It's your business. It ain't none of my business. I'm just making these videos to give y'all information you might not have known. But if it's not really about evidence for you, and you're just like, look, I don't want to follow God. He might exist. The evidence may line up with His existence, but I don't want to follow God. Bro, do your thing. We all got choices to make. Following God is not a matter of evidence or proof. It's a matter of the will. You have to want to do it. You have to want to leave all of this stuff behind and change so you can have the peace that you're looking for. That real peace that lasts in the midst of storms. That's a choice. And if you don't want to make that choice, no amount of evidence is going to convince you to. You have to want to. One more thing. When it comes to any belief you could possibly ever have, you are never going to have every single one of your questions answered. I don't care what it is. Even if you're an atheist, you are still going to have unanswered questions. Probably big ones. When you're asking questions about an infinite God, you are never going to get all of the answers. And we got to remember, God don't owe us any answers. He has given me the opportunity to get close to Him in this life so I can have eternal life in paradise. He don't owe me nothing. Now, usually when I ask Him questions and I ask Him for knowledge, when I'm asking from a certain place, He gives it to me. But He doesn't owe me anything. At some point, you got to decide that you've heard enough and you've gotten enough evidence to make a decision. All right, peace out, y'all.